Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi na'maduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkalu alayhi wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina. Man yudillahi fala hadiya lahu
Hi, my name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Naisha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
And dear brother Imams, Assalamu alaikum. On behalf of Imam Bashir Ali, who will be joining us later, I'd like to welcome you back for day 2 of our Imams meeting. For those of you who are just arriving, welcome. And for those of you who were here with us yesterday, welcome back. We had a wonderful start by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this morning, we had a wonderful breakfast prepared by the believers here. Thank you so much, Imam Saifullah, and your staff for such a wonderful breakfast and these wonderful accommodations. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless each and every one of you for every step you took to get here. And we know that on that day when everything is going to be accounted for, inshallah, we'll get credit for everything that we did, and we wish we would have done more. So as we always do, we take time out to pause and show recognition and appreciation to the one who allowed us to be here. So please join me as we open with Al-Fatiha. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Rahmanirrahim Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladina an'amta alayhim. Gayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Ameen. We want to just make a special dua. Something my daughter shared with me that I thought was very impactful, and I'd like to share with you. And it goes like this. Oh Allah, we ask for your love. And we ask for the love of those that love you. And we ask that the words that we speak and the actions that we perform are the cause for the attainment of your love. O Allah, make your love the most beloved to us, more than our own selves, more than our families, and more than the best things that life has to offer. Ameen. Beloved brothers, we have a number of things we want to do today, and we're already a little bit behind schedule, and I don't want to belabor our first presentation, but I do want to remind you of the fact that we have asked you to participate in this experiment that we're doing by way of the assessment. And alhamdulillah, we already received one back, and we've got indications that people are working on the other portion. So we are asking that you turn them in, whatever you have, by the end of this today, so that we'll have a chance to mark them this evening and report back to you where we stand tomorrow, inshallah. For those of you who may just come today and you don't know what we're talking about, and we're talking about Imam's Training Needs Assessment Questionnaire, where there are 6 sections that we're asking you to respond to, 5 of which will have multiple choice answers that you can provide on a bubble sheet or an answer sheet. And the 6th section deals with Arabic, where you will respond in writing either on the form itself or on a separate sheet of paper. And you are to put either your actual name, if you want, in the space provided, the name of the subject that you're responding to, or if you don't want to put your actual name, you can put your last 4, your social security number, because we plan to give these back to to you, or a pseudonym, if you like. In addition to that, within your registration package, there's an evaluation form, and we ask that you please complete that evaluation form as everything transpires at the end of that section for you to rate it. And of course, you're going to turn this in at the end of the conference. So please note that. We have also a number of packets of various programs that are going to be happening throughout the duration of the balance of this year and beyond, one of which is the Dean Intensive happening in Philadelphia. A couple of imams will be here that are here today, this weekend. Imam Kashif Abdul-Khalim, Imam Abdul-Azeez, who you'll hear from, also Imam Benjamin Bilal, and others. So we ask that if you're in the neighborhood and you want something to do, then spend the weekend with us here in Philadelphia. In addition, Imam Musa Abdul-Azeez having a New Year's program in New York, and he's passing out packets as well. So with that then out of the way, we want to begin our first presentation. And some of us may know our beloved brother Imam Abdul-Azeez Manning. And without going through his bio in order to save time, we're just going to call him up so we can get started on this very important topic of the virtues, the duties, and responsibilities of an imam. So without any further ado, Brother Imam Abdul-Azeez. Assalamu alaikum.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين وصلاة الله وسلامه ورحمته وبركاته على صفوة الخلق سيدنا محمد وعلى أهله طاهرين وعلى أصحابه أجمعين ورحمة الله ومغفرته على تابعين وتابعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين والسلام على إمام الدين والسلام علينا وعلى عباده الصالحين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون. We seek refuge in Allah from shaitan and curse. We begin with the name of Allah, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. We praise him, we seek his aid. We humbly ask Allah to establish his prayers, his peace, his mercy, and his blessings upon his noble messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We ask that Allah establish the same prayers, peace, mercy, and blessings upon all of his family members who followed him in purification. We humbly ask that the companions receive the same benefit, the same blessing, the same mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we ask the forgiveness and mercy of Allah and pardon the followers and their followers in goodness to the day of judgment. We humbly ask Allah to establish the peace and mercy upon Imam Dr. Wartadi Muhammad, who we saw with our own eyes, who we heard with our own ears. We ask Allah to establish peace amongst ourselves, no matter where we may be and no matter where we may be from. And to all of that, we say Ameen. I openly bear witness that there is none worthy of worship or praise except Allah, who is unique without any associate whatsoever, and that Muhammad is his servant and his messenger. Allah calls our attention in the Quran and he says, O ye who have obtained true faith, be mindful of Allah and let every person consider what they put out for tomorrow. And be mindful of Allah, for surely Allah is certainly aware of all that you do. It is with great pleasure that we stand before you today on this particular subject matter, which is our title today, or our subject today, acknowledging the excellent duties, rights, virtue, and sacred office of the Imam. Now, before we get into the actual text, we want to just ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to first and foremost bless us to get the most out of this little bit of time we do have together. And out of all due respect to all of the Imams that are here, dear respected Imams, we want to let you know that this is a very important time upon us. This is a very important time, and we are thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the fact that He allowed you to get here, that you took your time out to come here. And it is our job, once you're here, to make sure we get the most out of that. So that's my prayer at this time, that Allah blesses us to get the most out of this little bit of time. So without any further, we want to just go right into the actual program. We have a lot of introductory stuff, but that's for those of us who are in a position to do some reading. Inshallah, we have access to the entire presentation, the points that were not made and the information that you may not have seen and some stuff that we have added to it. But acknowledging the duty of the Imam. Before using because we had some prerequisite stuff talking about the maps, talking about the reality of having a map on life, on things that we're planning on doing, where we're going. And we talked about using that formula. So after arriving at an agreeable conclusion, we must first address the issue of what the duty of the Imam is. Some may believe that the Imam is simply someone who leads the prayer, that he's just a figurehead, or that there is an executive board that's the authority. They have the last word, they're the law. What they say goes. It's either their way or the highway. Oftentimes, disregarding the opinion of the Imam. If the Imam doesn't do what they say, then he got to go. These Imams are usually on the salary, and some of them are not. If he doesn't do what they say, he's got to go. And they don't have much wiggle room to operate. These Imams are usually in a situation where they're walking on eggshells, if you will. Many of these boards are operated by Muslimun who are not religious. A lot of times you'll see some of these boards that are in position that have brought someone in and we want you to be the Imam here. But when it comes down to actually performing religiously, they are not involved. They're not interested. So that's one thing that we want to keep a note of. If we're looking at the religion per se, we want to make sure that the people that are governing the religion should have the religion. It shouldn't be people in charge of things about the religion that don't have any regard for the religion. It's simple logic. In this instance, they don't ask the Imam nothing. And his advice is not required. The masjid is a social club where they don't even make the 5 salats. It's just a place they come to on Friday, collect a little change, do an event, and that's it. If something goes wrong, blame the Imam. If something goes well, thank the board. They are over the Imam, but who is over the board? If we're asking this question about, or we're acknowledging the fact that these particular situations exist, then the question is, who is over them? Others agree that the Imam is the only authority that matters in the masjid, that they go to him. If someone is looking for a wife or a husband, ask the Imam. If the roof needs to be fixed, go to the Imam. If there's no toilet paper, ask the Imam. If someone lost their dog, ask the Imam. Oftentimes, this scenario, the Imam is opening and closing the masjid with his wife, by himself. No one to delegate. Can't trust nobody to do it. Got to do it himself. On the roof, I went to one masjid, the brother's 70 years old. He's on the roof, fixing something on the roof, and his wife is holding the ladder. I said, brother, man, you got to come off of there, man. You can't be going up there. Don't go up there no more, man. Well, ain't nobody else going to do it. No security. At the same time, nothing is going on because the Imam is working a job to support his family. In this instance, the Imam is over everybody, but who is over the Imam? The Prophet ﷺ is reported to have said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, in terms of talking about the duty of the Imam, we find Allah telling us that know by your Lord that you have no real faith until they make you a judge in all their disputes between them and find in them no resistance against your decisions and accept them with full submission. This is an ayat in the Quran that I wanted to use in relationship to pointing out the regard in relationship to the duty of the Imam. Now, in the case of the board over the Imam, they cannot be over the Imam unless they have the religion and they're operating with the religion. They can't be over him like that. These boards have to understand, they have to have an understanding of Islam. So as leaders, when you select somebody on the board, if you choose to have a board, make sure the person knows something about Islam. It's a logical thing to do. And it will safeguard you later, because when things happen, they will be going to the Quran and Sunnah. They won't be going to what they feel or who they like or who they don't like. In the case of the Imam, being over everything, his duty is to have a healthy allegiance and trust in the Quran and Sunnah. This is where the ayat comes from. And know by your Lord that you have no real faith there you go. That you have no real faith unless you, O Muhammad, become a judge in all of their affairs. In other news, we have advisory reports that help the Imam, that assist him, that remind him when he forgets and helps him when he remembers. That they go by him and they ask him, his opinion. And they regard what the actual, how would you say, the vision, where the masjid is going. They have a healthy regard for that, and they're not making decisions based on how they feel. May Allah help us with those kind of boards, for those of us who have to have boards. Now, in our narrative, historically, most of the Imams in our association were thrown into the position of Imam. We were thrusted into that position. And that we weren't ready, trained, but Imam Muhammad was. For those who think he wasn't, just look back at the things that he was doing and you'll find that he was trained before he even stepped into that office that he was selected for. But most of us it came to, you gotta be the Imam. And we stepped in there, looking, what do you mean, how do you do this? But the Imam was there guiding us at the same time, and then he told us that we needed to go and study the sources of the religion. When observing the duty of the Imam, we see a wide range of things, right? Prayer leader, teacher, dawah specialist, funeral director, counselor, youth and family counselor, principal of the school, civic liaison, right? Advisor to delegates, husband, father, neighborhood outreach advocate, community delegator, interfaith director, event coordinator, peacekeeper, mediator, fundraiser, and trainer, and sometimes a punching bag. The Imam. Wide range of duties. And as you know, what your work has been throughout all these years as Imams in the association, how hard that job is. That's not an easy job. There was a brother who came forward and he went to a community, one of the sheikhs went to the community, and all of the people there wanted to be the Imam. So they got a community of brothers there, everybody's the Imam. So when they say, Brother Imam, all of them turn around. So they brought a brother in to troubleshoot with them. And he said, when he presented himself to them, he said, who wants to be Imam? And all the hands went up. So he said, all of you come with me. So he took them from one room into another room, and then he told one of the brothers to come with him. He gave the brother a knife, and he said, in another room outside of the second room. He said, slaughter this sheep. So the brother slaughtered the sheep. He said, wait here. He took the knife and he went back in to the room with the other brothers. And he said, how many of you want to still be Imam? And he said, we don't want to be Imam. What is the point here? The point is that despite the fact that he was trying to make a point that everybody's not going to be the Imam, that the job is, in order for you to be a good Imam, you got to be a good follower. Imam Muhammad was our leader, showing us how to follow because he followed Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But that doesn't make our job any easier, does it? Our job as leaders, we're supposed to have an unconditional positive regard, right? So we're supposed to guide, delegate, direct, teach, empower, train, represent the followers. Many of us, as believers in this association, have been in the association for 30, 40, 50 years. Right? Imam Muhammad said to us that our mission is to counter the needless waste of human and material resources. That's what our mission is. Many of our Imams, as we have a listing here, many of them have died on the mission. Many of them. Our leader died on the mission. For 33 years, he gave us everything he had. What happened to Imam Ali Rashid, Imam Ali Muslim, Imam Bakhruddin, Imam Ibrahim Pasha, Imam Abdul-Baqi Hamid, Imam Shakir Mahmoud, and now Imam Vernon Farid? May Allah be pleased with all of them. Many of them sacrificed 30, 40 years, right? 50 years. But the sacrifice, I don't know any Imam who has died in this association who died rich. Many of us are in this association, and if we were to die, they'll be scrambling looking for how they're going to put together our janazah. We have to remedy this. We are still here. We see this with our own eyes, and we don't do nothing about it. We got to do something about that. What do you suggest, Brother Imams? Don't you think we should have a network of Imams that would help each other? Don't you think that if the Imams are having such a hard time, maybe it's meant for the Imams to have a network? Maybe it's meant for the Imams to have a pension fund. Maybe it's meant for the Imams to have a product that they sell nationwide that would generate income that would go directly into something for the Imams only. What is our objective here? Imam Muhammad is our leader. He was our leader for 33 years. He gave us everything he had. And all of those names and many that were not mentioned gave us everything they had. But how is it that we are witnessing this and we are doing the same thing? It's not meant for us to do it like that. The same thing. The family, the brother retires, he can't get a bowl of rice. But he served the community real well. They talk real highly of him at the janazah. But what about the legacy? What about his legacy? We know about Imam Muhammad's legacy, but what about the legacy of these men I just mentioned? Don't you know the Prophet ﷺ had companions and they had legacies? Our leader, Imam Muhammad, said if you want the Muslim identity, look at the companions. So look at the companions. Look at the legacy of, say, Abu Bakr, the legacy of Umar, Uthman, Ali. All of them had legacies. All of them followed Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but many of them did things that still continue to operate today. They had a healthy legacy. What about the memoirs of those men that we just mentioned? What about your memoirs? That khutbah that you gave wasn't just a khutbah, that's part of your narrative. That's part of our history. It should be in a museum. They should publicize it. It should be a part of our association. There should never come a time where someone in our association is given 30, 40, 50 years of their life, and we don't even name nothing after that person. Keep his memory alive, man. The Sunnah tells us that. The charity that continues to live on. May Allah help us. To that we say Ameen. Umar narrated that the Imam, the Prophet ﷺ, has said, and this is in terms of the responsibility of the Imam, the duty, the responsibility. Verily, the leader is only a shield behind whom they fight, and he protects them. If he commands the fear of Allah the Exalted and justice, then he will have the reward. And if he commands them to do something else, then it will be against him. This is a very important hadith, because this particular hadith is one that talks primarily about the fact that the Imam has a position with the community that not only implies him leading them, but also shielding them. Also shielding the community, guiding them, helping them reach their goal. And their goal, the responsibility of the Imam is also there to help us get to Jannah. Here it is. The Imam is the ruler of the people, is a guardian, is responsible for his subjects. A man is the guardian of his family, is responsible for his subjects. A woman is the guardian of her husband's home and of his children, and the responsibility of them. And the slave of a man, guardian of his master's property, is responsible for it. Surely every one of you is guardian. This is part of our responsibility as Imams. What if I told you that together we can stop this vicious cycle? The Imam told us what our mission was, but he also said that if we're looking for that identity of Muslims, we need to look back at the companions and scrape from there and use that now. Bring it up to 2017. I'm not telling you to act like you're Arab. The Imam never told us to act like we was Arab or Pakistani. I go out to many places, but I don't act like they want me to act. And that's why they call me all the time, because they know I'm going to be me. They let me be me. And my advice to all of the communities that we have in our association, let the Imam be the Imam. Let him be who he is. Don't try to make him into something else. Let him be who he is. That's why he's who he is. That's why he's come so far. One of the remedies to this problem that we're having as a community is that we don't allow each other to be who we are. Our narrative is special, no question. But the idea behind us practicing Islam, showing that we have some understanding of this religion, is beyond any normal thing. So when they see you, they're like, wow, man, alhamdulillah, you're Muslim, you're practicing this, you guys are doing that. But what do you expect if Allah puts his hand on it? May Allah help us. Ameen. The duty of the Imam. This duty that the Imam has is just a responsibility. But it is his right. It is the right of the Imam, according to the Prophet ﷺ, to be followed. The Imam in any scenario is not begging the question, asking people to follow him. It's a known right that he has, because he's commissioned to do a certain job. That job description that we just gave, there's so many other things that are added to that list, and many of you know them. I only put a few of them up there. But you're asking the Imam for so much, but yet you want to give him a little bit. So the teaching of the Imam also should be to instruct the people in the right application of the religion, so they don't get so far out there. So they're challenging the Imam every time you turn around. They want to fight with the Imam. I don't care, I don't have to listen to him. We're going to do what we want to do, and so on and so forth. So the Prophet said, the Imam has been appointed to be followed. So bow down when he bows down, stand when he stands, right? It says that when he rises up, rise up. Say prayer sitting when the Imam says it's sitting. And this is in Sahih McCauley. Dear Imams, if you think this hadith is just talking about the prayer, just the prayer alone that the Imam should be followed in, then you need to go back a little bit. I would suggest that you go back a little bit and observe I humbly implore you to look at this hadith again, because this is the adab of the follower. I'm not asking you or suggesting to anyone that we got to call the Imam if we want to get a tahajjud prayer, or if we want to fast Monday and Thursday, we need to call the Imam and ask him. We're talking about decisions that affect the lives of other people in Islam. You need to consult the Imam. You need to talk to him, because that's his job. His right over you is that you follow him. Put him in that position. You said okay. Just like when you took the Shahada, you said okay. It's not when we get further down the way, all of a sudden that Shahada changed. I want to do something else. The fact of the matter is that the Imam should not be negotiating how he should be followed. He shouldn't be begging the question or asking or wondering who's with him. Because if you look at that job description, the people already know who you are. So why aren't the followers acting the same? The followers are not acting the same is because the reality is that they're not looking at it from that perspective. And it is our job to continue teaching them. It is our job to continue teaching them. So like the hadith was mentioned earlier, that the Imam is the shield, then therefore we need to look at this idea being presented and utilize that as a means of giving them the right information, helping them understand the religion. So the Imam is to be followed. Here, it's not about salat, just the salat, but it's also about the Imam being a shield or a leader who commands you to do that which is right. And we should trust that. The companions around them, we look at their lifestyles, we find that during their time they prayed with each other all the time. They knew each other. They knew each other all the time. They knew who they were. They knew who was there. They knew who were among them. And I suggest to all of us here, from this day forward, we need to get a more solid relationship. Don't just see each other once or twice a year or at an event. Don't just call each other when you need something, but call each other to check in, to find out what you can do to help them over there. We need to start networking like that, so that we can become more of just a brother Imam, but we can become a resource for each other, like the companions were for each other. They were a resource. And then when someone says you said something, and I know that you didn't say it, I can justify say, listen, that's not him. Why don't you go call him and find out if he really said that? Because a part of our community's problem is that we have operated on a lot of rumors. Just so rumor-orientated. Nobody wants to come forward and ask who said what, or go directly to the person that's supposed to have the problem. We can resolve that by simply having a more positive level of association. May Allah help us with that. The virtue of the Imam. Imam Adil. There's a hadith that you all know, you say it all the time, that there will be 7 under the shade of Allah on the day that there will be no shade except his shade. And the first person on the list in this particular hadith is the just Imam. Imam Adil. It says on the day of Yawm al-Qiyamah, where there will be no shade except his shade, Imam Adil will be under that shade, the just Imam. The Imam who dispenses with justice, not a yes man. Not someone that you can't talk to. Not someone that's standoffish. Not someone you can't rely on. But the just Imam. This is what makes the position, the sacred position, the position of the Imam, a virtuous one. Because the reward that he gets for his work is such a great reward, being under Allah's shade. This is major. This is not like getting a new car at the end of the year. Getting a new house. But getting some shade in a time in which there will be no shade except Allah's shade. This is a virtuous position. The sacred office of the Imam. When we look back at the 80s, we find that there were the term Imam for the United States became widely known, right? But it was known through the popularity of the Iranian president, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. May Allah be pleased with him and have mercy on him. But the Imam, the term Imam became known through him. So they was associating that with terror and all that, but all he did was save his country from the puppet regime of the Shah. So, but there was another man on the scene that used the term Imam, and he was also popular, but he didn't get the notoriety. and his name was Imam Dr. Salahuddin Muhammad, throughout the 80s, the ambassador to this religion. How would you say, the spokesman for human excellence. Imam W.D. Muhammad. The name was also, Imam was popularized through him, but it was just kept unknown for the people. So in the expose, we see the Imam expounded on the concept of Imam. Do you think that I would come and talk to you today on the subject of Imam and not talk to you from where our leader was talking from? Do you know that we don't have to look far in trying to find out how the leadership or the Imam is being defined in this religion? We don't gotta, Imam Muhammad already left us with that. In 1976, I used this particular presentation that he did because it was early on to show you that he was trained when he came in and that he was training us. And we used it early on to show that this is nothing new. This has been something that we've been sitting on for quite some time. May Allah be pleased with Imam Muhammad. Imam Muhammad opens the talk with the subject matter dealing primarily with leadership, respecting leadership. Respect for leadership. He uses the first two verses of Surah Al-Hujurat. Oh, you believe, do not put yourselves forward before Allah and His Messenger, and fear Allah, for surely Allah is hearing, knowing. Oh, you who believe, raise not your voices to the Prophet like you raise the voices that you do to each other, nor speak aloud to one another, or speak aloud to him in a manner in which you speak to one another, lest your deeds should be thwarted while you perceive not. Imam Muhammad goes on in the talk, and he begins talking about the virtue of these two ayats. But then he talks about our leadership. He talks about us as a people, the Bilalian. And he begins to say, he says, the community in the West, we do not have the problem of respect for leadership that exists in the time of Prophet Muhammad. If the chief minister were to start out of a door, most of the believers should step out aside and allow their leader the way. And while I am speaking, most of the believers will listen. In fact, you will give me such respect that it humbles me. But there are certain people who have a tendency to behave like savages. They have no civilization, no respect, no authority, and no respect for their leader. Imam Muhammad goes on to say, you know that your head is the leader of your body, your physical body. And if you do not respect your head, your own head, no one else is going to respect it. An individual who cares about his head is not going to stick his head in toilets, beat it against the wall, or he's not going to just fall down and let his head hit the ground. A human being is careful with his head. When he lies down to rest, he puts a soft pillow under his head. And when he goes out in the weather, he puts on a nice cap on his head. The human being goes out in the weather and he protects his head. He puts on, if he has a nice head of hair, it says he likes to show it off sometimes. And since he likes his head, he protects it. Likewise for our leader. If you have a leader, you want to protect your leader. You want to treat them nice. You want to beat them in the head. You want to crash them into the wall. You got them doing all this stuff, and you don't give them time to sleep, no time to rest. You want them to do everything. But the Imam says here in 76 that it is our job to be in a position where we take care of our heads, because that's the natural thing to do. That's more associated or more aligned to our fitra. Dear beloved Imams, I told you that our leader was trained before he was put into position, before he stepped into the office of Imam. Now, Imam Muhammad goes on and says, if the Bilalian people are ever to get respect, and if they are ever to develop some kind of strong leadership and a strong community, they have to realize that their leader is their precious possession. They have to be careful of not diminishing the value of their leader, and anytime the people do not lift their leader up, his value is diminished. So it's the responsibility. He talks about, he goes on and on in this article. I put the article at the end so that you can see that the Imam, when we start talking about this sacred office, Imam Muhammad goes on to tell us that you're acting in the position of the Prophet. Although the Prophet is no longer here, you are acting in his position. That you are representing that position, that sacred office. Because you're not acting on your own, you're acting based on what he said, what he did. That's why the reward is so high, because it's a real major test for you to maintain what the Prophet did in a situation where you'd like to do something else. So it's important, dear brothers, Imams, that we consider the stuff that Imam Muhammad is saying here. The leader needs support. Though Prophet Muhammad was the exemplary leader when it comes to the leadership, there were instances, cases where the Prophet ﷺ, this is the Imam talking, where the Prophet ﷺ firmly made a stand. He took a stand on certain things where people didn't agree with him. But that's what happens when you have a leader. See, sometimes we were looking for something to be the way we want it to be all the time. But man, you pray for rain, you get mud too. And sometimes you got to look at that. You got to expect certain things. So in the life of Muhammad, when you look at his life, you look at a man that was tried all the time, who was challenged all the time. Somebody was always challenging Muhammad ﷺ. If it wasn't the Christians or the Jews, it was the idol worshippers. If it wasn't the idol worshippers, it was some of the people that were in the rank challenging him, saying he's going to lead them into the fire, saying he was not this and he was not that. So when you get this criticism, that should bring you up as a leader. You shouldn't feel bad because they're criticizing you. Don't you know on the day of Yom Kippur, that's the day when all of the things that took place will be settled. And there'll be a balance that will be held out. And those who said all of this bad stuff about their leader, all this bad stuff about the community of Imam W.D. Muhammad, some of us are in a situation where we feel compelled to do what other people want, but making it seem as though what we have is not sufficient enough. But Imam Muhammad continued teaching us. He continued teaching us on the basis of what the Quran and Sunnah was saying. Through 1975, the 80s, the 90s, Imam Muhammad continued to keep our thoughts and minds fresh with regards, and current with regards to the leadership and with regards to the Quran and Sunnah. He goes on from Surah Ayat 3 to Ayat 7. And he says, verily those who lower their voices in the presence of Allah and His Messenger, these are those whose heart Allah has tested for taqwa, for them is forgiveness and a great reward. Verily those who call upon from behind the sacred, from behind the dwellings, most of them have no sense. And if they had patience and they could come out to them, it would have been better for them. And if Allah is forgiving, most merciful. Oh, you believe, if a rebellious person comes to you with information, look into it carefully, lest you harm people in ignorance, and afterwards you become regretful of what you have done. And know that among you there is the messenger of Allah, and if he were to follow you in every matter, you would be lost. Dear brothers, Imam Muhammad is describing how the leadership in our community deserves the same respect that the Prophet ﷺ deserved if you're following Muhammad ﷺ, the real Muhammad. And our leadership, the Imam was not training us to become leaders that as soon as you challenge us, we back down. No, he was training us to become leaders that are standing up all the time, that can go anywhere and not worry about or apologize for being a follower in the community of Imam Muhammad. There's no reason. I don't have to explain that. I don't have to apologize to you. No, my sheikh is from Detroit. Yeah, he is. But man, let me tell you something. If you think what he had wasn't nothing, then you need to go back and check the books, man. Most of these guys that you hear about, and they do all of this work, they're doing this great work in the community. They're doing this excellent work. None of them here in the United States have done more for dawah, more for Islam than Imam Dr. Warthuddin Muhammad did in his lifetime. And some of them open schools, some of them have this going on, but we have people that are lined up, that are in the Senate, people that are in politics, people that are doctors, lawyers, people's great-grandchildren. I ran into a police officer, and I was in Charlotte, North Carolina, and he approached me, and he said, excuse me, brother, do you remember me? So I looked around, I said, well, I was trying to figure out if I needed some space to get up out of there. Do you remember me? And he said, no, you know my father's from Harlem, and you know him, and he told me who his father was, and then I looked on his badge, and his badge said, Warthuddin Muhammad. To show you the impact of Imam Muhammad on the lives of people. Now, he's a third-generation Muslim. He's a third generation. So I don't know where I would be personally had I not been chosen for this mission. So I am very grateful to be among you, all of you respected, all of you loved, all of you, every one of you, Imam Musa, bin Bilal, Imam Rasul, Imam Bashir, all of you, every one of you here, Imam Ramadan, all of you, Imam Wali, all of you, Imam Kareem Bashir, all of you, Imam Sabri, all of you, Yahya, all of you have impacted me. You are the reason why I'm who I am. Because you took what the Imam said and you wore it with pride. How can we discuss the Imam without looking at what the Imam said? Many of you I call my uncles, man. Imam Nasif, Imam Talib Mahdi, all of you, man, have impressed upon me something very special. I don't have to apologize for being in this association. As a matter of fact, give me some room, because what we have is too big for this small stuff y'all talking about. Let's get it, man. We are living in a time now that we have to do something for us. Maybe it's not meant for Mr. Charlie to love us, man. Maybe that wasn't in the Lost Qadr, Brother Imam Shabazz. Maybe that's not in the Lost Qadr, Imam Kashif, that Mr. Charlie loves us. Maybe it's meant for us to love each other. Come on, man. Maybe it's meant for us to love each other, to back each other's play, to be there all the way until the janazah. Maybe it's meant for us to be like that, to defend each other when we're not present, to help each other. I called an Imam the other day. I said, Brother Imam, I got a problem. He said, what's the problem? I said, Brother Imam, I got a 15-year-old out there. We need to put him on the bus, put her on the bus and send her back. And he didn't question nothing. They had the ticket there to be on the bus at 5 o'clock tomorrow. This is what I'm talking about. And this is what we have to get. We have to get to that point. No matter where you are, no matter where you are, we have some of our younger Imams here. Imam Antar, Imam Yusuf Ishmael. These are like my nephews. I love them. I know they love me. I know they love me. And I love them just the same, because when I see them, they remind me of when I was their age. I'm not much older than them, but I am a little older than them. And when I used to be their age, I would be in the front rank. And when the Imam Muhammad would come in, and I would try to rush the stage, and the security would scoop me up. You see? So I remember those days. But that was enough to keep me around. That was enough to keep me around. So Imam Muhammad is telling us here, in closing, dear brother Imams, he's saying here, until the Bilalian people come into the kind of love and identification, leadership among us, we are going to be falling behind all the time. We are too far behind all the ethnic groups, all other races, and all other people to be seeking any form that will make us assimilated with anybody else. We are too conscious of wanting to be assimilated, and we want to be like the people that we paint as children. We force ourselves to be being like what we think the majority of the American people are like. But brother and sister, your piece of the puzzle that makes up the United States is not the same piece that belongs to somebody else. And if you want to stick your piece in, you should find the place in the puzzle that is grooved out like your design. And he says, thank you for honoring us with your time to read these few words, your brother, Imam W.D. Muhammad. I want to thank all of you for your time. We had, this is a very long presentation, but I want to respect the time. For those of you who want the presentation of the full text of it, let me know and we can get it to you. All I have to say here is that one of the Imams here, I think it was Suleiman last night, he talked about his frustration. And my frustration is somewhat similar, but it's not to the point where I just get caught into this idea behind just stating what my frustration is. Not that that's what Suleiman is doing. He said that because that's what he's acting on it. And I, like him, have the same frustration. As a young man watching the association, watching the Imams, I know what kind of pressure you put under. I didn't know how bad it was until I was in that situation. Sometimes it's a deer in headlights. Sometimes you feel alone like you're on an island. Sometimes it feels like you don't have no help. But I'm here to tell you that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put you in a room with other individuals that are doing the same thing that you're doing, and they have every right to be of assistance to you. And you have every right to be of assistance to them. So when we come together as Imams, we should be able to extract some joy from each other. That I should be empowered. After leaving you, I should be empowered. After leaving your presence, I should have some sense of joy, some sense of relief. I should be in a position to where I feel like I'm getting ready to win this thing. That's how we should be after this particular meeting is over. And we don't want to do what we did last year. We wasted a whole year. This year, we want to get right on it. We want to hit the ground running as soon as this event is over. And we want to start putting the groundwork together. You are here. We can decide on it here. You're here. You're not absent. We pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the continued success upon every one of you Imams that are here and your families and your communities. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept this humble effort to aid us to be of those who remember him and show gratitude to him and worship him in the best way. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to aid us to be of those who are under his shade on a day in which there will be no shade except his. Assalamu alaikum.
Takbir! 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 Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that wonderful presentation by Imam Abdul-Azeez. For those of you who are able to get online, go to iwdmcommunity.com. All the presentations are right there. So you can download them, you can follow them as we go along. The educational development team basically wanted to cover the fundamental duties and responsibilities of an Imam. And of course, Imam Abdul-Azeez laid it out, and there are other components, as you know, as he illustrated in his presentation, that fall under the purview of our duties and responsibilities. At various points in time, we do encounter situations that do require our involvement, such as divorce. Although it's the thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, although it is permissible, he hates it the most, but nevertheless, there are times when we do have to involve ourselves in those matters. And so in recognition of one of these areas of responsibility, the educational development team thought that it would behoove us to present to you some of the fundamental concepts that we need to be aware of so that we can at least have a uniform basis of approach and perspective on how we handle those particular matters. Of course, time is not sufficient for us to do a full and comprehensive and extensive analysis of this particular subject, but at least we can provide the fundamental information so that we have more than just a nodding acquaintance with all the components that need to be taken into account as we perform this particular part of our duty. And so, by Allah's grace, we have Brother Salahuddin Muhammad, kept calling him Saifullah yesterday, who has taken up the responsibility for putting together the information to present to you. And so at this particular time, I'd like to turn the podium over to him, who will take us into our subject of a comprehensive understanding of divorce in Islam. Assalamu alaikum.
Bismillah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Divorce in Islam. Okay? This is a very comprehensive topic. And we know that we live in a country, or we live in a, I would say, society where divorce is rampant. And so, but Islam has a cure for that. Divorce in Islam has a cure for divorce, and it's used as a deterrent. So throughout this presentation, just remember that divorce in Islam is used as a deterrent, okay? So, prerequisites before divorce. So in the Quran, verse 4, Surah 4, ayat 35, and it says, and if you fear dissension or discord between the two, send an arbitrator from his people and an arbitrator from her people. If they both desire reconciliation, Allah will cause it between them. Indeed, Allah, He is ever knowing and acquainted with all things. So this verse, it ordains that when the marriage is in danger or possible divorce, the couple should appoint arbiters to sort out the problem and bring about reconciliation between them, okay? But if the arbitration fails, then divorce is permitted. So, before we as leaders entertain divorce, we should make sure that the couple has sought out arbiters from both sides. So when a couple comes to you and asks you to do a divorce, you should first ask them, have they done this first? Have you seeked out arbitration, okay? And also, we should ask them, have they seeked out counseling or marriage therapy? So these are the prerequisites that we should make sure that the couple has done prior to us even doing a divorce, okay? Next, disclaimer. So the Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that, let me read it from the PowerPoint. He said that divorce is the most hated of all the lawful things in the sight of Allah, okay? So this hadith shows us that divorce is halal, it is lawful, but it is detested by Allah. Divorce is the very last thing to which we must resort to. And even then, only when it becomes absolutely impossible or impossible, okay? We have to understand that Shaitan wants to destroy the institution of marriage. That leads to what? The destruction of the family. And we know family is what? Family is the cornerstone of society. So Shaitan, he wants to destroy that. And so we can see this in the hadith from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He says, Iblis placed his throne upon the water. He then sends his detachments or minions for creating dissension. The nearer to him in rank are those who are most notorious in creating dissension. One of them comes and says, I did so and so. He says, you have done nothing. Then one amongst them comes and says, I did not spare so and so until I sowed the seed of discord between a husband and wife. Shaitan or Satan goes near him and says, you have done well. Amash said, he then embraced him. So here we can see that Shaitan or Satan's purpose is to bring discourse or to bring divorce in the married couple. This is his job. So we have to know that. We have to know that he wants to destroy marriage. And if he destroys marriage, then he also destroys the family. Then he also destroys the society. Okay? So this is important. So divorce in Islam is a preventive measure. Okay? We should look at it like that. It's a preventive measure from having a couple from being divorced. So, primary reasons for divorce. So when we go to Surah 30, ayat 21, we can see the purpose of marriage, okay? And it says, and of his signs is that he created for you from yourself mates, that you may find tranquility in them. And he has placed between you mawaddatan wa rahmatan, that he has placed between you love and mercy. Okay? So love and mercy is the nucleus of marriage. That's what keeps the couple together. Love and mercy. And the goal is to get to what? Sakina, is to get to tranquility. That's the goal. So when the main ingredient of marriage is not there, when there is no mutual love, when there's no mercy between the spouses, or when they're living together becomes unbearable and it's too difficult to settle their disputes, and also when the children are involved in the discourse, then it is recommended or it is required that they get divorced. Okay? So when the love, when the mercy is no longer there, then it is recommended, or some say that it is required, that they get divorce. Okay? So next, comprehensive understanding of divorce in Islam. Talaq. So the word talaq means to set an animal free. It is used in the Sharia to denote the legal method whereby a marriage is brought to an end. Okay? In classical Islam, it is referred to the husband's right to dissolve the marriage by simply saying to his wife that he divorces her. Okay? Next, talaq al-sunnah versus talaq al-bid'ah. So, talaq sunnah is a divorce done according to the sunnah, as wherein the husband divorces his wife, with whom he had consummated the marriage, one time during a time of her purity, concerning which the two did not have sexual relations. Okay, so let me break this down. Sorry. Okay. So in Islam, the man is supposed to divorce his wife when she's in the state of purity, not when she's in her menstrual. Okay? He's supposed to divorce her when she's in a state of purity, not in her menstrual. Because we know when a woman, when she's in her menstrual, her emotional well-being is heightened. Okay? So in Islam, we know that mercy plays a very important role. Mercy plays a very important role. So as a man, you're not supposed to divorce your wife when she's in her menstrual cycle. You're supposed to, when you say you're going to divorce her, say it when she's in a state of purity. Okay? And then next we have a verse from the Quran. It says, divorce is twice. Then either keep her in a acceptable manner or release her with good treatment. So in Islam, as a husband, you only can divorce your wife twice. Once you divorce her the third time, you cannot have her back unless she marries another man. And then they have a divorce. Then you can take her back. But once you divorce her the second time, that's it. You can't have her back unless she marries somebody else and then also has a divorce from that guy or that Muslim man, and then you can have her back. But once you divorce her the second time, you cannot have her back, okay? You can't have her back unless, like I said, she divorces that man. Yeah, unless he divorces her, okay? So we're still on talaq al-sunnah. So this is a verse in the Quran that really gives us the details about the proper way of how doing a divorce or talaq. And it says, "O Prophet, when you Muslims divorce women, divorce them for the commencement of the waiting period, and keep count of the waiting period, and fear Allah, your Lord. Do not turn them out of their husband's houses, nor should they themselves leave during that period unless they are committing a clear immorality, okay? Next, then we have a hadith, what it says, narrated by Anas bin Sirin, and it says, Ibn Omar said, I divorced my wife while she was menstruating. Omar mentioned to the Prophet, peace be upon him, said to my father, let your son take her back. I asked Ibn Omar, is such a divorce counted as one legal divorce? Ibn Omar said, of course, narrated Yunus bin Jubair. Ibn Omar said, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said to Omar, order him. He said, order him, Ibn Omar, to take her back. I asked, is such a divorce counted as one legal divorce? Ibn Omar said, what do you think if someone becomes helpless and foolish? Okay, so here we see that we cannot divorce our wives when they're on their menstrual. Okay, this is giving us the proof. Okay. Next, we have Talaq al-Bid'ah. And so, Bid'ah means anything that has no basis in the Quran, Sunnah, or sayings of any of the companions. Okay, so this is the definition of Bid'ah. So, Talaq al-Bid'ah is any divorce inflicted on the wife while menstruating or during a period of cleanliness, okay? Where the husband has sexual intercourse with her or the husband pronounces 3 divorces at once or one setting, okay? So this is saying that the talaq bid'ah, or the one that has no basis, is the one, first of all, like I said earlier, that when you divorce your wife when she's in her menstrual, then also, if you have had sex with her, you have to wait to say divorce, okay? Then, also, you cannot say divorce 3 times in one setting. You can't, so I can't come to my wife and say, I divorce you, I divorce you, I divorce you. I can't say that to her 3 times in one setting, okay? It has to be, I say divorce, and then I go through the waiting period, okay? And then if I want to take her back, I can take her back, or I have to say that the divorce is taking place, okay? Next is the difference between talaq as-sunnah and talaq al-bid'ah, okay? So the sunnah divorce is when the man divorces his wife once in her purity in which he has not had intercourse with her, and to leave her to complete her waiting period, which is prescribed generally to be 3 menstrual periods or 3 months. Sunnah divorce can in other words, can be said to be a divorce that is done according with the divorce laws of the Quran and the Sunnah. The talaq al-bid'ah divorce, on the other hand, is when a man divorces his wife 3 times in one divorce declaration, or to divorce her in her menses or natal bleeding, or in a purity in which he has had intercourse with her. This type of divorce goes against the teaching of the Quran and the Sunnah. Okay? Okay. Things that cause a talaq to be null and void. First one, when someone forces that man to divorce his wife, okay, or if the man is under undue duress, okay, he cannot pronounce talaq if he's been forced or if he's under duress. Next one is that if he's had any type of drug, or he's been intoxicated, or temporarily impaired, okay? Next, if he has extreme anger that causes drastic behavior and also change in his character. So, as a man, we can't divorce our wife if we're upset. We can't divorce her if we are angry. We can't divorce her because we're not in a sound mind. And even in Islam, when a judge makes a decision, he can't give a ruling if he is upset. Okay? So we can't say to our wife that we want to divorce them if we are in a state of being angry. Okay? We have to wait until we cool down. Next, we have khul or khula. And this is the woman's right to divorce. Okay? Khula is a procedure through which a woman can divorce her husband in Islam. And how she does this is by returning the mar or dowry that she received from her husband, okay? And this is the proof. Quran, Surah Baqarah, ayat 229. And it says, but if you fear that they will not keep within the limits of Allah, then there is no blame upon either of them concerning that by which she ransomed herself. These are the limits of Allah, so do not transgress them. So here the key word here is that the woman has the right to ransom herself, meaning that if she wants to get out of a marriage, then she can ransom herself, meaning that she can pay her husband back his dowry. Okay? Next, Surah 4, ayat 129. And it says, and if a woman fears from her husband contempt or evasion, there's no sin upon them if they make terms of settlement between them. And settlement is best. And present in human souls is stinginess. So here, what is it saying? It's saying that the woman has a right to divorce. And her right to divorce is called khula, okay? Khula. So the woman in Islam has a right to divorce too. Okay? Reasons for khul or khula. First one is cruel treatment, disappearance of the husband, husband failure to perform marital jobs, or things in a marriage that a man is mandatory to do, like provide and maintain. If a husband goes to prison, then a wife has a right to divorce him. And if we, as a man, cannot perform our, I would say, sexual duties, or if we can't desire the woman in the way that a man is supposed to sexually desire his wife, then his wife has a right to divorce him. And then lastly, if the man is insane, okay? If the husband is insane, then the wife has a right to divorce him. So next we have the classifications for khul. The first one is halal, the second one is makruh, and the third one is haram. So first is khul is halal when the wife feels that staying with her spouse results in disputes and violations of her spouse's rights, or when she fears that she will not keep within the limits of God. Okay? Second one. And these are the proofs that go with this. Surah 2, Ayat 229. And it says, but if you fear that they will not keep within the limits of Allah, then there is no blame upon either of them concerning that by which she ransomed herself. Okay? Second proof is from is a hadith. It was narrated by Ibn Abbas. The wife of Thabit bin Qais came to the Prophet and said, O Allah's apostle, I do not blame Thabit for defects in his character or his religion, but I, being a Muslim, dislike to behave in an un-Islamic manner if I remain with him. On that, Allah's apostle said to her, will you give back the guardian which your husband has given you as a mar? She said, yes. Then the Prophet ordered Thabit, O Thabit, accept your guardian and divorce his wife. So here we can see that the wife, is proof that the wife ransomed herself to have a divorce. Okay? Next we have makruh, or dislike. The khul is makruh when there is no, it's important, there is no compelling reason or any extreme circumstances. The khul should not be the result of flimsy circumstances or reasons. And this is the proof. The Messenger of Allah, he says, if any woman asks for divorce from her husband without any detailed reason, the fragrance of paradise would not be lawful to her. All right? Will be unlawful to her. Okay? And then the second one, Abu Hurairah, he reports that the Prophet said, the woman asks for separation khul without reason. And the Prophet, he says, and they are hypocrites. Okay? So here, it's showing that when a woman says she wants a divorce from her husband, she should have reasons. And we talked about those reasons earlier, okay? That she should have a reason why she wants to divorce him. And the same thing for the man. The man just can't say, I want to divorce his wife. He has to have reasons. And it has to be reasons that are compelling. Next one is haram. It says the forbidding type is the one that arises out of where a husband deliberately oppresses his wife with a view of accomplishing divorce of the marriage through who and still be compensated. Okay? And the proof of this is that Allah, he says in Surah 4, Ayat 19, he says, and do not make difficulties for them in order to take back part of what you have given them. So here it's saying that a man, he cannot force, or a husband cannot force his wife to divorce him so that he can get compensated. Okay? He cannot force his wife to divorce him. Next. Iddah. Iddah for talaq, or waiting period. In Islam, iddah, or iddah, period of waiting, is a period a woman must observe after the death of her spouse or after divorce, during which she may not marry. Its purpose is to ensure that the male parent of any offspring produced after the cessation of nikah, marriage, would be known. Okay, so here that the waiting period is to make sure, the first and foremost thing is that it's here to make sure that there's no child that comes out of here. Okay? First thing. Next, the iddah of a woman divorced by her husband is 3 monthly periods, unless she is pregnant, in which case the iddah lasts until she gives birth, or unless the marriage was not consummated, in which case there is no iddah, or unless she does not menstruate, in which case the scholars say that she should observe an iddah of a full year, 9 months for pregnancy and 3 months for iddah. So here, first thing, the iddah for the talaq is 3 months. But if she's pregnant, then it has to last throughout the pregnancy until she gives birth. Okay? Third thing, if the couple does not have sex, then there's no waiting period. Okay? So if the couple does not have sex and they decide to divorce, there is no waiting period. Okay, so here we have the proof. It's Surah 2 ayat. Surah 2 ayat 228. It talks about how long that the waiting period is supposed to be, and then then Surah 65 ayat 4. It also talks about how long the waiting period is, and then the same thing for Surah 33:49, it talks about the waiting period, and it also talks about that the man cannot have sex with his wife during the waiting period. Okay, he cannot have sex. If he does have sex with her, then that divorce is no longer. Okay, it's no longer. They are married again. Okay. Okay. Key points for iddah. The waiting period of a woman after menopause is 3 months. The waiting period of a female who has not had a menstrual cycle is 3 months. The waiting period for a pregnant woman is until after they deliver the child. Okay? iddah, waiting period for cool. And so there's some disagreement on how long the waiting period is for cool. Okay, the first opinion is that the iddah for the cool is 3 months, just like the iddah for the talaq. Okay, the second opinion is that the iddah of the cool is 1 month. And this is derived from a hadith that is found in Timothy and Ibn Majah, where the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he has prescribed only 1 monthly course as a term for the wife after divorce. Okay? So here there's 2 opinions. The second opinion is the stronger opinion, that the wife, when she pronounces a divorce, then it's only 1 month. But you do have Muslims who do say that it should be 3 months, just like the talaq. Okay? Okay, the hikmah, or the wisdom of iddah. The iddah allows a transitional period for the husband and wife to rethink all the consequences of divorce. And it also enables them to know whether the woman is pregnant. Lastly, it gives them a last opportunity to reconcile their marriage. Okay? So that's the most important part. Or these are the 2 most important parts of why there should be a waiting period. Okay? And like I said earlier, Islam comes to reform divorce and to put together pre-measures, or not pre-measures, but preventable measures, and to deter the couple from really divorcing. Okay? So next, concerns of Islamic divorce. Dealing with Islamic divorces in this country, or in America. Issues with khula with immigrant Muslims. Issues with talaq with immigrant Muslims. Okay? So next, strategies to consider. First one, don't marry Muslim couples who don't have a civil marriage license. Okay? Why do you think this is important? This is important because the civil marriage helps to safeguard both parties. And we know we don't live in an Islamic country, so we have to abide by the laws or the Constitution of this country. So in order to safeguard the couple, we should ask for also a civil marriage license, okay? They should have 2. They should have a civil marriage license, and they should also have an Islamic contract, too, all right? Next, those who don't have a civil marriage license and are seeking divorce must have a valid reason for divorce, okay? And Imam Kashif, he has done a great job on giving those reasons. And I talked about those reasons for the woman when she decides to get divorced. But we should formulate some reasons, okay? We should formulate some reasons to determine if this divorce is something that should happen, okay? We should formulate this, because when I looked at, who was it, Pakistan, they had different reasons to determine if this talaq or this khula could go through. So as Muslims of this community, we should put together those reasons too. We should put together reasons to determine if this is a valid divorce, Okay? Next, create a contract that indicates that before the marriage is dissolved, both parties must go through the process of iddah for both talaq and khul. Okay? So we should put together some type of contract to make sure that the couple goes through this waiting period. Okay? This is important that we do that. Okay? Next, action plan to create or I put up there might be different. Oh, to create and incorporate a council of imams to develop procedures, documentations that deal with fiqh issues such as divorce. So these documentations or these procedures, we can put them on the website. And those imams in your locale, if you're dealing with a divorce issue, you should be able to go to the website and get all the resources that you need to deal with that divorce. Right? And that's it. Barakallah. Feekum. Assalamu alaikum. Okay. Any questions or comments? Any questions or comments? Can I ask you? What up?
Alhamdulillah. Takbir! 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 Alhamdulillah. You know, this particular topic is something that I know that can be rather unpleasant, something that we may not want to deal with, but anyway, at least we have information available to us that we can use as a basis. And then, of course, we have each other that we can consult with. So at this time, we have a couple of minutes for questions for both of our presenters. So please ask your questions.
Okay. Now, you explained that civil for marriages, it's better to have both an Islamic certificate and a civil certificate. Okay, now, in the event that you want to take on a second wife, okay, now, in civil court, you can't have two marriage licenses. Okay, you're chargeable then by the state. Okay, so in a situation like that, how do you cover the second wife's nuptials and her rights? Okay, how can you cover them in a court of law? Does she have any protection? Or in the case of the first wife claiming everything? Okay, in the case of the brother passing away. You know, are you clear on what I'm saying?
Well, first of all, once you go into that type of relationship, or you go into a second marriage, you have to understand, first and foremost, that there's a strong possibility that your second wife won't have any rights through the civil court, but she will have rights through the Islamic marriage. So I've read some cases where some civil courts are kind of lenient to it, but I read also the majority, they're not. Because you know this country does not accept polygyny. It doesn't accept it. So basically, when you take on a second wife, you have to know the risk of that. You know the risk that these are things that might happen.
So we had a classic example of it, right? Yeah. I don't want to go into that, but we had a classical example of that. Okay, and the sister's rights was usurped. Now I heard Imam say, you know, even if you don't have a certificate with the civil court, you should at least have a notary, notarized marriage. You know, is that
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. I read a case where there was a court, because they did the same thing. They notarized it. And so the court, they were a little lenient, but she didn't have the same rights as a civil court, but they looked into it and they gave her some rights. But they didn't give her the same rights as a first wife because she did have a civil license, a certificate. Yeah. So and this goes back to us putting together some type of documentation or procedure to help safeguard those second wives. You see what I'm saying? We have to put something together in order to safeguard it.
I just want to make a brief comment to that. Very well done to the brother's point. So these marriages are contracts, and those contracts, they give rights and protections. So for a second wife, you can write a contract that gives similar protections, and then have the first wife agree to those terms in the contract. So legally, they'll be protected by law from the contract. And if the first wife is agreeing and signing off on the contract, then they are acknowledging these other rights. So when it goes to court, you know, the court will recognize it.
Assalamu alaikum. I've always been told that marriage, even in Al-Islam, is a civil thing. And that's why it only requires an adult, sane Muslim male to perform the marriage. It does not require a man to perform the marriage. Do we want to really take this on other than making some things that would help protect the rights of the people? And if we do, we should include in there that it would be dissolved by Islamic law in the state's courts. That can be done. I was a judge in the state of Missouri, county court, in a religious case, using the laws of the religion to solve the case. It can be done. It wasn't a divorce case, but our laws can be used in the state's courts and recognized by the laws of the land. That's true. But both parties have to agree.
Yeah, I think you made a great point that having some type of contract for the first wife, she also agrees to give the rights to the second wife. I think that's important that we do that. And like I said earlier, I've read a case where the courts did kind of help out the second wife, but at the same time, she didn't have the same rights as the first wife because they were in a dispute. The first wife and the second wife, they were in a dispute. And the civil contract had more power over the Islamic one. So I think we have to put together some type of contract where the first and the second wife have to come to an agreement, and that will hold up in court more so than having them separate.
And it'll protect brothers from getting married without telling the first wife.
Yes.
Which, you know,
yes,
as a fig point, you know, it may be a position of our community versus some other communities.
Yes.
There's a couple of points I'm glad that the brother judge made that point as well, is that in civil matters, even in terms of business and things like that, I know in New York State, they will recognize the Islamic court, you know, but we're operating now in a political atmosphere where you have people trying to institute laws specifically against Sharia law. So we have to be mindful of that as well, and to the point as Imam Bashir was making. I'm not sure that you can voluntarily give away your right under their law in that sense. You understand what I'm saying? And someone to contest it, you know. But there's a distinction to be made. Let's say if there's a death, if the husband dies, and then how those assets are to be allocated, as opposed to just a divorce, you know, as we have seen, you know, and we know that the judge did rule that, you know, the other wife does have some rights, you know? So these are some things that I think we have to really kind of drill down on and get some professional legal advice on somebody that knows the secular law as well as the Islamic law.
With regards to the Islamic law in the courts, the case of the state of Oklahoma versus the Muslim community with regards to ban Sharia law, an attempt to not allow any Islamic laws with any kind of adjudications in the courts was overturned in the 10th District Supreme Court. So the fact that some Sharia law or Muslim laws can be considered when going to court for some matters, that's very true. But this is a monogamous country, and the reality is that to my knowledge, that when the Imam marries that first sister, that's the only sister by law that really have any rights when you come right down to it. Now, should the other sister, whether the second sister agree or not, should that sister have a contract and agree with the Imam regarding what any type of benefits that she might get, until the Imam actually, till the brother actually passes away, the only protection that she really has is in a will.
Yes.
Bottom line.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah, right.
Other than that, it's just conjecture and conversation back and forth. Who was this and who was that? But the reality is that I don't think so.
And this is why we need a think tank. We need, our community needs to think, because these are issues that should be brought to the table. We should look at these thick issues, and we should make documentations and procedures. That's why it's important that we are talking about these things, because these are things that happen. We have people who have multiple wives. We have people who are getting divorced. Even with our leader, he had one wife, but his previous wife, she never got a divorce. So
legally.
Yeah, legally. So these are issues that we need to really talk about, put together documentations, procedures on how we deal with these issues, because they are very serious issues. Yes.
All right. I am currently going through putting some information together. So I have 3 wives,
Okay.
and one is a Christian.
Okay.
But she's not the first one. And I have a sister who does legal work. She's a Muslim. She has 2 Muslim sisters and does legal work. Now, I also, in the state of Oklahoma, have documentation in the courts to where the Islamic law, the Islamic nikas that I perform, they're documented. They can be documented, certified through the courts, the whole thing. So, alhamdulillah, that's something. Also, with the documentation in the wives, the Christian sister, we're married through the courts, business, legal stuff, stuff we had to do, inshallah. We just had to do stuff like that. But the other ones are out of court or certified with the court, Islamic documentation with the marriage license. So, brothers, I'm glad that you're talking about that today, because we're working on trying to make sure that all these sisters are represented and covered in the event that something happens to me or divorce or whatever happens, inshallah. But the understanding should also be, when we're marrying, the contract, the nikah, the whole marriage is a contract.
Yeah.
And that information needs to be put out, that information needs to be documented, it needs to be certified, witnessed in the whole thing, because I'm telling you, you don't ever have problems with any of these people until you have divorced or somebody.
Yes.
So inshallah, I would love to get this panel or whoever wants to deal with this in touch with my wife, because she's a legal aid and she does this stuff. This is what she does. So inshallah, we're going to help with this information for myself and for those who are going to be going through this stuff also, inshallah.
I'd just like to advise and also caution all of us on a couple issues. One, with that, if we're going to advocate that, and by the way, you did a very good job in terms of breaking it down and explaining it. But there are some situations where the sister, or in some rare occasions, even the brother, there might be some physical abuse there, or a person might be concerned about their safety, and we have to be able to recognize that. So if we're advocating and pushing, there's a waiting period. In order, Islamically, you must do this. But if the sister's in fear of her life, then there's no waiting period. You separate them immediately. And the other thing is that sometimes, or a lot of times as imams, we're giving counseling and things of that nature. But sometimes we just have to be smart enough to realize that there might be some unique situations that we don't have the expertise with. And in those situations, instead of us continuously sitting down with people, we have to know of people and agencies that we can refer them to so they can get the professional help that they might need. That's it.
One other question? Yes, sir.
Yeah, one of my concerns is as our community is growing, we get different people coming into our communities. A lot of people are already coming into our communities without marriage certificates. And they're already married, and especially from like Africa and other places like that. And they want to get divorces, and they want to have wills and all of these kind of things. But we don't have any standardized paperwork. We don't have any documentations. We also don't have a notification process. We don't have any methodology for completing anything once it's done or it's completed after that. We don't have anything to let people know that the divorce is complete, or we don't have these things, at least in the standardized process. So we're wondering, how can we go about creating that in terms of something that we can use all across the country, so that with something we have in Connecticut, we can use in Massachusetts, we can use in New York, New Jersey, all these different places. And we need to find a way to set up a network or a team to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I think we have it. I think if we utilize the website as a central location where imams can go and download those applications,
right.
those applications for divorce, the applications for marriage, forms. It's have a universal form that everybody can use.
Is it incorporated in the bylaws?
Yeah, because one of the things we want to ask you, is there a way that we can set up so like there's a way that only we can go in and get the information and download information and get it out? Mm-hmm. So there's forms that only we can, as imams, access and get and enter and remove?
Yeah, absolutely. There's ways to set up security.
All right. Yeah.
One other final question, because we're running out of time. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Imam Muhammad, when he first spoke on that decades ago, he gave a way out that's stronger than a will. If you have another wife inside this country, take her on as a business partner. A will can be contested. A business partner and all that goes with business, the insurance on her through the business and all that other stuff is owned by the business. We won't have the problems that he had when he left here and papers disappeared. Keep it.
One final question.
Yeah, two things. One, Abdul-Azeez and Imam Abdul-Azeez and Imam Salahuddin. Just to count what his brother just said, Imam did say marriage is a business.
That's right.
And so since it is a business, we have to treat it like a business. The question is, similar to the prison systems in our country, America, the Christians and the Jews set the precedent already. So all we have to do is have that think tank and begin putting our paperwork together so the judges will accept it. They have to accept it.
Exactly.
The same way they accept it for the Jews and the Christians and any other organization. So it's about us coming together, brainstorming, bringing information there that has to be accepted as not clearly expressed in Quran or the life of Rasulullah alayhi salam. Abdul-Azeez, you mentioned about the boards. We're working and they're asking the same question with both conferences, in Detroit and in Chicago this past anniversary. And everywhere I go, even in DC, they're asking the question, the young people are not there. And so the recommendation is, place the young people on the board, and the rest of us can be on an advisory board, and we're going to guide them. Otherwise, if the older people stay on the board, and the young people are not there, where's our legacy? That needs to be brainstormed on as well, too. If we're not afraid, if the Imams are not afraid, that the young people are going to take it and go and do something else with it. Thank you.
Well, we want to first of all thank our presenters. God bless you. Thank you for your questions. Before we close this session out, though, I would like for anyone who's interested in working in this work group for this marriage concept and divorce concept to get with Imam Salahuddin Muhammad and let him know that you're interested, because we plan to continue this. Get all the documentation that everybody uses if you want to, submit it to him. If you have marriage forms or certificates that you use, or if you have a divorce form that you use, and he has some material that he obtained, but time would allow for him to present it. And we want to kind of look at what we have and then eventually standardize our processes to some extent. At least people will have something that they can refer to and draw upon should they desire to do so. And we're not saying that you have to use any one particular form, but at least you have a resource that you can go to look at what's available, and you can select from that menu what may suit your needs and whatnot. So that's what we're striving to do, standardize our processes, and thereby be able to, once we do that, evaluate them and then make modifications to them as the situation warrants until we get it the way we want it to be. Yes, sir.
Brother Imam, inshallah, I would also encourage brothers to immediately go, and if you're not already, go and get yourself registered wherever you are in the state, city, county, whatever, inshallah, with the courts, to perform the nikahs, because that carries a lot of weight also. So I don't know who is and who's not, but I would suggest that you do that.
Well, thank you very much. We have another session going on, and we'll be presenting some other topics that are of importance for imams to know about. One, of course, of the duties of imam is to be able to conduct the Jummah, and there's certain protocols and certain elements that exist within the Jummah format, according to the Prophet Muhammad, that we need to be aware of and be able to follow and whatnot. And then we have another presentation that deals with some of the gems from our experience, our first experience, that Imam Kashif will also present. And also Dr. Hamid Al-Amin has a presentation on education. So that'll be our next session after our break, inshallah. So with that then, before we adjourn for our break, I'd just like to reiterate the fact that we have these evaluation forms that you'd like people to fill out as the presentations transpire, and make sure you return them at the end of the day, or end of the conference rather. And also for those who are participating in our Imams Training Needs Assessment Questionnaire, to turn in your materials by the end of the day. If you have some done already, we'd like to turn them in, and we'll be glad to take them, because our goal is to be able to evaluate them and present you with the results tomorrow. If anyone is here who hasn't received a copy of it, then we do have some available for you to fill out. It's a very simple process to do. All you have to do is take the time to do it, or make the time to do it, and inshallah you'll be able to get it done. With that then, we'd like to thank you very much for your attentiveness. So right now we're going to take a 15-minute break.
My name is J. Stan McCauley, and I do business as Light Source Productions. I provide professional services in the area of strategic video communications. First, what we do is we help you craft your message using what I call the rule of the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, and why. We do event documentation, content acquisition, full-scale productions, editing, and of course distribution through our social media television network. And with social media, video is more important now than it has ever been. Whether you're talking big business, small business, nonprofit, church, or just an individual. Let's say you're planning an event, a wedding, whatever the case may be. But let's say a big event, but no video. And you spent all this time, all these hours to put this event on, and maybe 100, 200 people attend the event. But more important than that is that thousands could attend by watching it on social media. But of course, you don't think about this until after the event is over. You can't afford not to capture it for social media. And despite what people think, I am affordable. Give me a call. Let's plan your next video project and share it with the world on my social media television network. I promise you that you will have the attention of one person, me.